Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Thomas. Today we're back here with How to Beat. I did say I was going to cover it. Welcome to How to Beat New Vegas and Fallout Season 2. So, yeah, this is going to be fun. So, yep, off to New Vegas. And I can't help but say it with like the bad shirt. Anywho, let's get to it. Be sure to like, subscribe for more. I hope you all enjoy it. Let's rock and roll.
Alright, Meat Shields, today we're going back to the Wasteland.
Oh,
and as a fan of the series,
nice.
I'm happy to say this season absolutely slaps. We got Death Claws, the Legion, Super Mutants, and all your favorite Wastelanders you already know and love. And we got a lot to cover here, so I'm not wasting any time. Today we're here to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat New Vegas in Fallout Season 2. The story picks up where we left off with Lucy and the ghoul just wandering the wasteland on a mission to find her dad. They pulled up at this little town called Novak, somewhere on the outskirts of New Vegas. Except these days, a tribe of raiders called the Great Khans are running the show, and it looks like they actually caught the ghoul lacking. They've got him up on the diving board with barbed wire wrapped around his neck, but just when it looks like he's toast, Lucy chimes in from her sniper perch all the way up on Dinky the T-Rex. She says their original plan was to rob these dudes, but now she's hoping the Khans might just let them take the caps and leave. Cause you know she's all about that golden rule or whatever. The only problem is the Khans aren't going for it, but that was their biggest mistake. So bam, Lucy hits the rope and knocks the ghoul down, and everyone just starts blasting with bullets flying all over the place. But the ghoul gets up and starts using the chain like a whip, and then starts smoking these guys with their own weapons while Big Iron's playing in the background. So yeah, the Khans are no match, and Lucy's honestly disgusted by the epic levels of violence, but they take their loot and head back out to the old Mojave Wasteland. Alright, now, I don't know what these two were thinking here, but this whole plan was honestly cheeks right from the start. Sorry, Coop, but it is true. Like, first of all, imagine sending nice, innocent Lucy over here up to these dudes and just saying, here you go, I'll take that huge bounty now. Like, I'm sorry, but that's just dumb. This ain't Mary Poppins we're dealing with here, okay? These guys are Great Khans, and that basically means they're just raiders with matching jackets. So you can try getting that bounty out of them, but good luck. Cause like, who's even in charge of handing that out? Frickin' Psycho Larry over here? And why the hell would they pay up when they could just take the ghoul and keep the caps as well? I mean, that's what I would do. Now, personally, I'm gonna be thinking like Coop here, cause out in the wasteland, you gotta do whatever it takes to survive. So when it comes to dealing with these Khans, here's what I would do. If I really wanted to keep things peaceful, then my only choice would be to keep it pushing and find another way to get my money up. But on the bright side, this is New Vegas, so there's always a way to get some bread. I could scavenge for supplies to sell back in town, hunt a couple of wasteland critters for something to eat, or, you know, just pick up a side quest to make a few extra caps, no problem. But if we're going with Coop's idea, then instead of just handing them over right away, I'd tell the Khans that I saw him a few miles back and ask for a cut of the bounty instead of the whole thing. They'd probably laugh in my face, but at least it would give me a chance to look around their base a little and figure out where the safe is. And if they tried any funny stuff, then Coop could just pop out and start blasting. But if they took the bait, then all we'd have to do was wait until most of these guys were gone and then pull up on whatever guards they left behind and deal with them. Crack open the safe with a lockpick or some dynamite or something, and then just take the caps and skedaddle before the rest of them come back. Easy money. It might not follow the golden rule, but that's just how it works out here in the wasteland, so Lucy needs to stop acting like a freaking vault dweller before they both get smoked. So
yeah, you think after what happened with her father last time, which, spoilers, her father's an asshole, you think she'd be a little more hard-boiled, you know? What are you gonna do, right? Can't control how you feel. Move along.
Lucy and the ghoul are back to strolling through the desert when they find this random dude who got squashed by someone in power armor. And that can only mean they're getting closer to her dad. They find this little shack up ahead where there's this crazy old lady selling bowls of flea soup. So Lucy decides to buy some and find out if she's seen her pops. And yeah, it's freaking disgusting. But on the bright side, the owner saw Hank pass through not too long ago. So they keep following the trail until they get to an old drive-in movie theater. And right behind the blown-up screen, they find the entrance to a vault. So they decide to head in there and see what they can find.
Looks like it
but
got
before we get to that, we cut to the pre-war days where we find Coop meeting up with Moldover back when she was just Kate Williams. They just learned about Vault-Tech's plans to drop drop the big one on purpose, but she's got a plan to stop it. You see, there's this guy, Mr. House, the owner of Robco, who's got his own private missiles out in Vegas. Cause yeah, he's that rich. And Cooper's wife, Barb, who's an executive at Vault-Tec, is about to fly out there and sell him cold fusion technology. Kate is worried that once House gets his hands on it, there'll be nothing stopping him from sending everyone back to the Stone Age. So he wants Cooper to use his wife's connections and his Hollywood charms to get in close and take care of House, if you know what I mean. So back in the present, we catch up with our boy Norm, who's still trapped in Vault 31 by the overseer Bud, a former VP at Vault-Tec, who's now just a brain in a jar. He won't get in a cryopod like Bud wants him to, so Bud offers to just kill him with some poison instead. He promises it'll be no biggie, but this gets Norm thinking about some other options. So he decides to just open all the pods and see what happens. Meanwhile, down in Vault 24, Lucy and Coop come across this room full of skeletons in communist uniforms. Weird. But what's even weirder is they all have this little chip on the back of their necks. Well, it turns out Vault-Tec was using these chips to brainwash people, and Hank already took the holotape out of the terminal, so this must be what he was after. But that's when they find that lady's son strapped to one of the chairs, and it looks like Hank already chipped him up, because he starts shouting at Lucy to go home until his head suddenly just explodes into a million pieces. The ghoul then asks if Lucy wants to turn back, but now all she wants to do is stop her dad from hurting anybody else. So they head back to the surface to keep following his trail. Now, as for Hank himself, he's just pulling up at this giant Vault-Tec facility somewhere under New Vegas with the holotape that he got from Vault 24. The place is a total ghost town, but it seems like Hank's right at home. And after brewing up a fresh pot of coffee, he trades in his power armor for a clean Vault-Tec suit, grabs himself a sick new golden Pip-Boy, and heads down to the global comms room, where he starts sending a message to some mysterious person. He seems to think whoever it is must be still alive, even from before the war. And he says that he's there to finish working on those chips. And if he gets it right, he thinks this other person is gonna want to team up.
That's not
All right, this dude Hank is a certified demon, I'm not gonna lie, but now that Lucy and the ghoul know what he's after, they might already have everything they need to track him down. They don't know where he's going or what his plans are yet, but since he went out of his way to stop by this particular vault, it's pretty safe to say that whatever he's up to revolves around those chips. So all they need to do is figure out where else Vault-Tec worked on this project, and they'll probably find her dad. Now, Hank might have taken the drive out of that one terminal, but there's gotta be more information about these chips somewhere. So the first thing I would do is search this whole vault before leaving, and maybe we'll find another terminal or even some regular old paperwork that could lead us in the right direction. All they can really do is keep following Hank's trail for now, but if they ever hit a dead end, I'd start searching for any Robco or Vault-Tec related spots along their path and see if we could find any new leads. It's not much, but at least it's a start, and hopefully they can find Hank before he chips anyone else. Somewhere.
Yeah, honestly, with how that chip acted for the son, oh boy. So, yeah, a long story, but nearly fell for a scam. Luckily, Mom came home and stopped me before I gave anything else. So, luckily, still have my money. Yeah. Don't worry, changed my passwords and the Cash App I used. I changed the passcode and everything, two-factor for everything. We should be good. Anyway.
Back in the wasteland, we catch up with our boy Maximus and another Brotherhood knight as they're battling through this ruin full of feral ghouls. My guy's just over here smoking them left and right without even looking phased. And they slaughter their way through the whole place just for this one random piece of scrap. It kind of seems like a lot just for that piece of scrap, but I guess that's just the Brotherhood for you. And when they get back to the airship, everyone starts hyping Maximus up like he's the man. He hands the Pandal over to Elder Quintus, who says that he wants to reunite all the Brotherhood chapters into one big happy family. But first, they're gonna need a new base. So they watch from above as a couple of scribes fire up these giant fans down on the surface, and as they blow all the sand away, we see that he's talking about frickin' Area 51. Back with Lucy and the ghoul, she's busy telling him the whole story of A Christmas Carol when they hear some random lady screaming for help from inside this old hospital. The ghoul keeps right on walking without even thinking about it, but Lucy insists that they have to go in there and check it out. So they head inside and start following the sound of the woman's voice. The trail leads them all the way down to the kitchen where they find the injured lady lying there on the floor. But as soon as the ghoul sees what she's wearing, he says they should just let her die and save the supplies. There's another injured guy in the corner, but the ghoul just walks up and cuts his throat with literally no hesitation.
Is that Markiplier?
And then starts freaking eating the guy right in front of them. And he's about to do the same thing to
man, I
this
gotta
lady.
check something. What's that, Mark?
In the corner, but the ghoul just walks up and cuts his...
Okay, I think that's Markiplier. I mean, looks like him, but I don't know. Let's see. I mean, that looks like him, but anyway.
Throat with literally no hesitation, and then starts freaking eating the guy right in front of them. And he's about to do the same thing to this lady when Lucy gets in the way. But the ghoul realizes that something about this guy tastes weird. And when he looks closer, he notices a huge oozing wound on his back. Uh-oh. That's when they hear something moving around in the vents, until out of nowhere, a freaking baby rad scorpion pops out and starts going after Lucy. Another one jumps to the ghoul as they both start fighting them off, but just when it looks like they got them all, they hear a loud crash from the back room. And that's when a freaking huge one breaks through the door and starts trying to eat Coop alive. Rolling out of the way, he grabs the lady and uses her as a damn meat shield. But Lucy pulls her off, and the ghoul ends up getting stung in the leg. So just when it looks like he's cooked, he grabs a grenade and shoves it straight in his mouth, and then kicks the monster back as it explodes, but they've only got one stim pack, and Lucy decides to give it to this random lady since the ghoul's healing factor should keep him alive. Annoyed, she tells him he deserves it for being such a jerk, but promises to come back after she gets this lady home. But she's got no idea she's walking straight into a trap.
Even I'm looking at this, but like,
all right, well, here goes Lucy being a Girl Scout again. I mean, you'd think she would have learned her lesson after that whole disaster back in Novak, but nah. One of the most important rules of the Wasteland is if you ever hear somebody screaming for help, no, you didn't. It's basically the same rules as a cabin in the woods. So if you start hearing weird noises, you do not go check that out. 9 times out of 10, the person is totally fine and it's a trap. But even in those other times when they actually need help, whatever tried to kill them is probably still around. So as soon as I heard the first sign of trouble, I'm gonna just keep it pushing and probably speed up, honestly, because unlike Lucy here, I actually want to live. So yeah, that was her first mistake, but once they started hearing noises and this lady straight up said they're back, that's the moment that I am gone. Maybe I would try and take her with me if I was feeling nice, but I'm definitely not sticking around to see what happens next. So personally, I'd already be halfway to New Vegas before these rad scorpions even showed up. Now, when it comes to fighting these things, the little ones are easy to take out as long as you don't let them sting you. But Big Mama over here is a whole different story. Regular hits are just gonna bounce right off her shell. And if she stings you once, you're done, son. So as soon as she came through that door, the first thing I'm doing is backing the hell up as far as possible. Because as long as she can't reach me with her claws or stinger, then I'm good. But these things are fast. So while I'm backing up, I'm grabbing the shotty and aiming for the weak points, like her stinger and legs, and blasting that stinger off is basically half the battle. And if I take off a few of her legs, I can just turn around and dip without wasting any more ammo. Simple. Now, as for this rando that they just picked up, Lucy honestly made the right choice by helping her instead of the ghoul, because she wasn't going to survive without that stim pack. But with that being said, it's time to send this lady packing. You see, Lucy hasn't been around the Wasteland long enough to know this, but the ghoul was trying to warn her that these two were from Caesar's Legion. And if you know anything about these guys, they're the absolute last people that you want to run into. So if Lucy thinks she's just going to take her home, she is in for a real bad day. That's why if it were me, I would just take 2 seconds and ask the ghoul why he hates these people so much. And after finding out where they came from, I would just tell this lady good luck and send her back out on her own. Because sticking around with her is a good way to get killed. And then I would just shut up and listen to the next time Coop gave me some advice, because that's the only way we're making it to Vegas in one piece. All right, Meat Shields, before we get too far into the Wasteland, have you ever thought about what you would do out there all alone with no one to talk to? Might be pretty lonely, but only if you don't have today's sponsor, Polybuzz. It's a new app that's going to blow your mind and unleash your inner chatterbox. I mean, it's basically a gateway to a universe of endless conversations. Like, think of it as a place where fictional characters come to life, ready to chat, joke around, or even embark on epic adventures with you. And you know what else is cool? You're not limited to pre-existing characters. Polybuzz lets you unleash your creativity and build your own AI chatbot, complete with a unique personality and voice. I mean, it could be anyone you can imagine. Like, check it out. I made a chatbot of the ghoul out in the Wasteland, and now I'm just roasting him all day. I mean, come on, this is sick. The best part, it's free to download, and if you use my code BEAT26, you can unlock some premium features. So what are you waiting for? After the episode, go to the link in the description and use my code BEAT26 to download the Polybuzz app today. And now, back to the Wasteland. Back in Vault 31, the frozen vault dwellers all step out of their cryopods looking hella confused. And since they all have no idea what's going on, Norm sees it as his chance to spin the story. He starts telling everyone that it's officially time to take back the surface, but he had to kill off Bud so the little brain in a jar wouldn't blow up his spot. And when the vault dwellers realize that their boss is dead, they all start freaking out now that they don't have a leader. So Norm realizes that he is going to need a new plan. Meanwhile, back with the Brotherhood, Quintus calls a meeting with the elders from the other chapters, but they notice pretty quick that he didn't invite the Commonwealth. Quintus seems to think they'd just take the cold fusion device and leave the West Coast high and dry as usual. So he wants the other chapters to join up and help him take over, but it seems like they're not really going for it at first, until he breaks out a bunch of crates full of fusion cores. And when they realize how much power they're talking about here, the other elders start switching up real fast. Back on the trail, Lucy's new friend tries warning her to just go home, but it's already way too late for that. All they see is a bunch of dudes in Team US Roman armor just posted up on a hill, and by the time Lucy turns around, her friend is already gone. Jumping back to Vault 31, Norm realizes he can just trick these dummies into doing what he wants. So he comes up with this story about how he's actually a super manager and starts acting like this whole thing is a test to see if they're ready for the surface. And when he explains it that way, everyone immediately locks in and starts working together to find a way out. We catch up with Lucy later that night as she's walking up to an old shack. She notices this red banner with a bull that can only mean one thing. She just walked straight into Legion territory. So yeah, it looks like Lucy's in trouble, but as for her brother, his luck is actually getting better, for his new employees find a ladder that leads up to the surface. And since he's the boss, it's Norm's job to lead the way. So he gets in there and climbs all the way up until they pop out right in the middle of the desert. And everyone starts looking around in amazement as they see what's left of the world outside. Alright, I gotta give my boy Norm some credit here, cause that whole escape plan was actually hella smart. But if these goobers are still all as dumb as his sister, they're not gonna make it 5 seconds up here on the surface. The vaults might have kept them safe for the last 200 years, but since they've literally been living under a rock this entire time, these goobers have absolutely no idea what's waiting for them out in the wasteland. All it's gonna take is one rad roach or feral ghoul to completely wipe them out. That's why, first, we're taking apart pieces of the vent, the fan, or those junked out cars and turning them into some homemade weapons for everyone in the squad. That way, we won't just get clapped by the first thing we see. After that, I'm focusing on the big three: food, water, and shelter. And that helps us in a couple ways because we're going to be seeing a lot of weird stuff out there, so it's good to keep everyone focused on the basics so that they won't freak out. So on our way to the city, I'd check some of those blown up houses for any basic supplies, but once we found a good place, I would settle down and set up camp. We're going to need a base to work out of and store all of our stuff, so while half the squad goes out exploring the city, me and the other half can hang back and set the place up. And after that, we'll be cooking, at least until some raiders show up or something, but hey, it's a start. But once we get all that figured out, what are we gonna do next? Well, Norm came up here on a mission to find his sister, but it's not gonna take long before he finds out the wasteland is no joke. So as a backup plan, I'd wanna know how to get back to the vaults just in case. But the good news is there's a Vault Tech office right there in LA, so if they don't already know how to find the entrance, they can probably just find it out there. Then worst case scenario, he could just duck back to the vault and start over if that's what he's gotta do. But as for Lucy, she's still out.
Though, now I think about it, aren't the overseers from 32 and 33 still there? Like, I can imagine why he's not going back. He doesn't want to give up power, which, oh boy. If that's the case, then we got a villain turn coming in. I don't think Lucy's gonna like the new coupe after this. Depends on how he uses it. But you get the idea, right? Just, anyway.
Out here making one dumb decision after another, and now that she just got caught lacking by these psycho LARPers, yeah, it's not looking too good. Like, I'm sorry, but after seeing her friend just dip the second these dudes showed up, you gotta be a total idiot to just keep walking in the same direction. Like, come on, Lucy, take a hint. One look at these dudes, and I'm gone before they even see me. Then I'm ducking straight back to the hospital, apologizing to the ghoul and listening to what he says from now on. But
Yeah, I
this
think I would've listened
dingus
to him
just
in the
walked
first
straight
place.
into their
He
camp,
knows this place
and now
better,
she's gonna
so
find out why
better
even
with
the
the devil you
ghoul
know than
thinks
the devil
they're
you
bad
don't know.
news. Back at Area 51, all the
All right.
Brotherhood peeps are gathered around watching these two knights play Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Maximus is about to head out when he sees this big dude from one of the other chapters
Tyson
gets in
Fury?
his way. He heard Maximus smoked Moldiver, so he wants to fight Maximus just to prove that he's tougher. And since the Brotherhood's got this whole macho thing going on, my guy doesn't really have a choice. So even though his heart is not in it, Maximus gets in the ring and squares up. And at first, this dude's just whooping his ass like nobody's business, but then bro pulls out a knife and the elders aren't stopping it. So Maximus's only choice is to lock in. And he ends up just brutally murking this dude right in front of everybody. But that's when another vertibird pulls up on the scene, and it turns out to be this dude Paladin Xander from the Commonwealth. So it looks
Xander.
like the big boys just crashed the party. Back with Lucy
Oh,
and her
boy.
new Legion buddies, they end up bringing her stuff back to their camp, where they're torturing people and doing all kinds of not so nice stuff. It looks
Ouch.
like they got the girl too, but as soon as they set foot in the tent, they chop her freaking head off right there on the spot.
Bye.
As for Lucy, they bring her in front of the head honcho. They start talking about
Bye,
doing
sorry.
some not so great stuff to Lucy pretty much right away, but when she claps back like, how about no? They decide they're gonna stick her up on a cross instead. But as they're taking her away, they pass this other camp full of Legion dudes right on the other side of this dirt wall. Well, it turns out when the original Caesar died, he left a message in his pocket with the name of his replacement, and these two sides have been fighting over his body ever since. So seeing an opportunity, Lucy offers to help them out with her negotiation skills. But nah, they just stick her on the cross and leave her there
Rude.
to die. Back with the Brotherhood, Elder Quintus just ran into a problem, cause now that this dude from the Commonwealth is here, the other chapters are all chickening out. Maximus offers to just
Oh, boy.
smoke him, but the elders say that'll only make things worse, and he basically starts dragging Maximus in front of everybody for coming up with such a dumb
And
idea.
traitor.
Maximus is not very happy with the way that he just got treated, but that's when he runs into Xander out by the tents, and it turns out that this guy is actually kind of chill. He starts telling Maximus that they should work together instead of fighting, and starts convincing him to go behind the elders' back. And since Maximus just got hella disrespected, he decides to
Why
give
not?
this guy a chance. Meanwhile, the ghoul decides to just rescue his damn self and gets back out on the trail, where he eventually finds Lucy still trapped at the Legion camp. He's gotta get her out of there, but he can't exactly just walk up and ask nicely, so it looks like he's gonna need another plan.
There's two Kaisers, yep.
This was the worst choice Lucy's made since that cousin stuff back in the
Oops.
vaults. And you know it's bad when your only hope is waiting for the ghoul to save your life. So yeah, I hate to say it, Lucy, but it looks like you
You're
done
done fucked up.
up. Like, it would be one thing if you just ran into these guys because of bad luck, but nah, your luck stat's literally a 7. That's pretty high. Maybe after this we should start listening to the ghoul now? Like, how many times do we have to teach you this lesson, lady? You almost got
Okay.
dog meat turned into actual frickin' dog meat by those cons back at Novak with your whole just ask nicely plan. Cause yeah, that was definitely gonna work. But even after the ghoul bailed you out of that one, you
Again.
just couldn't stay out of trouble, now could you? Like, nah, let's go towards the sounds of someone screaming in this creepy ass hospital. I mean, genuinely, what are you thinking, shorty? Oh yeah, and the worst part is it was all for nothing because these dudes just chopped her freaking head off a few hours later.
Sheesh.
So maybe next time you just shut
Listen
up
to
and
the
take
ghoul.
Coop's advice. Well, good luck getting out of this one, because Lucy, you
You're done fucked up.
The ghoul heads over to this old NCR outpost, Camp Golf, but there's no sign of anyone until he finds my boy Victor just posted up
Hey,
in the
Victor.
corner.
How you
And
doing?
he tells Coop about a camp somewhere in the hills, and so Coop decides to head there and see what's up.
Right,
Well,
let's
he
see.
gets to the spot where the camp should be and starts looking around until out of nowhere someone fires a warning shot straight past his dome. He looks up to see an NCR ranger posted up on the rocks, but when they bring him back to their camp, he realizes that they're just a couple of freaking senior citizens. So the woman gives Coop some medicine and asks him to send back some help, but Coop breaks the news that there's nobody left and decides to head back to the Legion with a new plan.
Sorry.
We jump back over to Maximus and Xander as they're going for a ride in the dude's vertibird, and they just picked up some suspicious activity coming from this old factory on the surface. So they decide to land and
Alright,
check it
let's
out.
check it out.
The place looks empty at first until they hear this weird electronic voice coming from around the corner, and suddenly an old Securitron pulls up and starts opening fire. But it's an easy dub for the boys, and they're having so much fun that Xander decides to let Maximus take the super sledge for a spin. Meanwhile, Lucy's barely
Nice.
alive when she sees the ghoul come strolling into camp, and he says he'll tell them where to find the NCR if they agree to let her go. So the next thing Lucy knows, the ghoul's carrying her out of camp as the Legion starts gearing up for battle. But it turns out he left them a little surprise, cause as they're walking away, a huge explosion goes off back at the camp, and the two sides just start wiping each other out. Back at the bottle factory, Xander and Maximus end up finding this little ghoul kid hiding under one of the tables. Well, it turns out that dude Thaddeus had this whole cap collecting operation he's been running there, and he starts begging Xander not to hurt anyone. But the guy's obviously not going for it, so with no other choice, Maximus just takes the super sledge and smokes him right there on the spot. Sure enough, they hear a vertibird pulling up a few seconds later, but if they find out Xander just got popped, it's over for everybody. So their only choice is to put Thaddeus in the guy's power armor and make them think that he is still alive. But while those two are flying back to base, Lucy wakes up back at the NCR camp, and after stocking up on some more firepower, her and the ghoul get back to the trail. When Maximus gets back to the airship, Dane can tell there is something off about Xander, so Maximus has to admit that he kinda just smoked the guy, and now Dane is worried that Elder Quintus is gonna kill Maximus when he finds out. But Maximus already decided he's just gonna kill Quintus first. Back with Norm and the Vault Dwellers, they're busy scavenging for food when this dude Ronnie starts asking if it's time for phase 2. It turns out that Ronnie over here was actually Bud Askin's personal assistant, and he kind of starts hinting like he knows Norm's a fraud, so Norm decides he better play it safe and let this guy take the lead. Meanwhile, back down in the vaults, they've got their own problems going on because Vault 33 is basically out of water, and when Overseer Betty checked on Vault 31, she realized there was nobody left. That means she has to go to Overseer Steph for help, but she won't give up any water unless Betty gets her a special box from Hank's old office. So it looks like Betty doesn't really have a choice.
I don't know what's in the box.
Alright, it looks like the Vaulties are running into some trouble, so maybe it's just time to pull a Maximus and just take out the competition. But actually, speaking of Max, can we just talk about that disaster real quick? Because his plan is so crappy, even the ghoul can smell it. Now, I'm not trying to say any of this was his fault, because honestly, he did the right thing by taking out Xander. The one I'm actually mad at is Thaddeus, because bro, you mean to tell me two dudes in giant robot armor just caught you by surprise? I mean, they literally pulled up in the loudest vehicle possible and then got in a huge battle like 10 feet away. It doesn't matter if it was the Brotherhood or Raiders or whatever. If one of you gets found, they're gonna find everyone. And then you're all toast. So you gotta get some better hiding spots than right there out in the open. I mean, come on. But yeah, all they had to do was hide a little better, and this whole thing could have been avoided. So I'm blaming Thaddeus for that one, and honestly, instead of taking out Quintus, I would just cut my losses and bail before things get any worse. Now, the situation for Vault 33 peeps ain't looking too good either, because if they can't get Steph to share some of that water, their only choice is going to be to ditch the vault and try their luck out in the wasteland. And they'll be lucky if they make it 5 minutes out there, because Overseer Betty might actually have more options than she thinks. Because think about it this way, right? If Steph is willing to give up half their water for whatever's in that box, then whatever's in there has got to be pretty damn important. And she even let it slip that it's something personal, so that means it's even more important to her. But she never said Betty couldn't open it first, so if it was me, that's exactly what I would do. But if I open it up now and see what's inside, I'm the one calling the shots. It's just that easy. Then we got Norm and this Ronnie dude, and that guy seems like he might be a problem, but actually it might not be that bad. I would just make it seem like it was my choice to let him take over. You know, call it a leadership test or something like that. He'll probably end up getting smoked by the first thing they run into anyway, so if I was Norm, I would just hang back and chill until Ronnie had a little wasteland accident and let the problem take care of itself. Back on the surface, Lucy and the ghoul...
Yeah, sometimes, if you got someone just like, yeah, I know what's up, be like, okay, you do you, and just let him take the fall. I don't know what phase 2 is, but anyway, let's just see who's next. Are we going back to Lucy? Yeah, there's like 3 stories now. You got Lucy, who's in New Vegas, Maximus, who's trying to survive the Brotherhood, and now Norman, who's out and about, and, well, 33's on the shits. Anyway, let's see what else happens.
Finally make it to the strip, but something about the place seems a little sketchier than usual. Looking closer, all they see are some busted Securitrons and a bunch of ghouls doing Elvis impersonations. So yeah, the Kings are looking a little different these days. And that's just the start of it. So the ghoul decides that they should circle back and hit this other neighborhood called Freeside first. But Lucy's feeling a little grumpy since the meds are wearing off and she's not about to make another detour. So instead, Lucy just walks straight up to the ghouls like, hey, just passing by. And as soon as one of them gets too close, blam, she just blows his freaking leg off with a shotgun. And the crazy part is, it actually felt good? What? All of a sudden, the rest of the ghouls start rushing in as Lucy keeps smoking them one after another, until at the very end, she sees the king himself stumbling away and just blams him straight in the dome. Like, damn, Lucy. It looks like they're good, right? But nah. Because what's waiting around the gate is actually 1,000 times worse. Back at Area 51, Maximus goes walking straight into the Elder's office and tells him what happened to Xander. Then he just pulls out a laser pistol and gets ready to smoke Quintus too, but the old man gives him a chance to explain and starts acting like he's gonna be all understanding. Except as soon as he finds out Maximus did it to protect a bunch of ghouls, he frickin' flips out, grabs a blammer, and starts blasting straight at my mans. At the same time, a huge fight breaks out between the different factions when they realize that someone has stolen the cold fusion device.
Oh boy.
But Maximus ducks out of the old man's office and locks the door with a chain. He finds Dane out in the hallway, and Dane hands him the relic, telling him to take it and hit the road. So that's exactly what they do. And Maximus and Thaddeus just take off running through the desert as the other factions start tearing each other apart. Back in Vault 32, this dude Woody shows up at Overseer Steph's room saying he's there to report a violation. It turns out this dude overheard her and Betty's conversation a little earlier, so now he's snitching on Steph to herself, because you know that's what the handbook says to do. Well, Steph promises to take care of it and basically tells the guy to kick rocks, but meanwhile, Chet notices a secret compartment in her sock drawer, and inside he finds a freaking Canadian ID card. What the hell? Woody tries one last time to ask what the Overseers were talking about when they met up before, but Steph just dodges the question and kicks him out, except she's already decided that my guy knows a little too much. Back on the strip, Lucy and the ghouls find the place completely deserted, and there's no sign of anyone out there. But as they look around, they notice that everything's all irradiated. And that's when Lucy finds this giant egg just sitting there under a tree. So just then, they hear this loud roar coming from inside one of the casinos, and Lucy's over here acting like it's about to be another easy win. But Cooper has heard that sound before, and all of a sudden, this ginormous Deathclaw rips down the door and starts getting ready to run their thing. Alright, I honestly don't know who is scarier, Overseer Steph or the Deathclaw. Okay, it's the Deathclaw, but only by a little bit. But yeah, Lucy needs to get her act together before she ends up getting one-tapped by Godzilla over here. Now, once again, all she had to do was just listen to the ghoul and everything would have been fine, but nah, we gotta do things Lucy's way, even though that's literally never worked even one time. I mean, she might have been a teacher back in the vault, but she's not a very good learner, I'm just saying. But one look at this place would have told me it was bad news, because whatever took out all of those Securitrons obviously wasn't those ghouls. And this is the strip, so if people aren't out gambling and partying, there's gotta be a pretty good reason why. So yeah, going back to Freeside to get some more info was definitely the move, like the ghoul said. Actually, my boy Dogmeat's the only one who had the right reaction here, because at least he dipped out at the first sign of trouble. And honestly, what's the point of having a little wasteland doggo if you're not gonna pay attention when he tries to help you out? Everyone knows dogs sense danger before people do. Or I guess most dogs anyway. Maybe not a pug or something, but you get what I'm saying. So as soon as I saw my boy Dogmeat hit the road, I'm getting out of there. But now that evil Barney just pulled up looking to throw hands, what are they gonna do? Well, if you put me up 1v1 against a Deathclaw, yeah, I'm cooked, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, look at this freaking thing. We're talking about a 12-foot tall monstrosity with armored skin and giant claws that can just eat regular hits for breakfast. So what the hell am I supposed to do against that? If they can't damage this thing with the weapons they have, then they have to get creative with what's around them. And if you look around, there's a bunch of these old cars all over the place. Well, if you know anything about cars in the Fallout world, they basically run on nuclear power, so when one of them explodes, it's like a nuke, a tiny nuke, going off. So basically, my plan here would be to just lure the Deathclaw towards a car, blow it up, run for my life. Sounds easy. Yeah, not really. That's pretty much the only way I think I would stand a chance here. Well, just...
Yeah, I mean, depending on the nuclear reactors in those cars, because, you know, one wrong placement of those bullets and you're screwed. Honestly, I pick like a lane for it to try to chase me. Then, once it get close, you know, blow it up. You got a Matador, I think, you know? I'm pretty sure it's gonna just charge at us, but anyway, let's see how they do with the Deathclaw, huh?
When it looks like things couldn't get any worse, another Deathclaw shows up, and another one, so they realize their only choice is to get the run out of there. They take cover behind an old car as one of the Deathclaws starts sniffing them out, but that's when Coop sees Dogmeat escaping through a hole in the gate. So he chucks a grenade in the other direction while they both get up and run for it, and they're able to escape just in time. They end up back in Freeside, where the ghoul decides that it's time to fill Lucy in on a little backstory. He explains that he's looking for his wife and daughter, and he thinks that they might be in one of these special management vaults. So he's pretty sure he'll find them if he keeps following Hank. Well, it looks like they're gonna need a way to get past these Deathclaws, but that's not the only problem, because Lucy is still hooked on Buffout. So the ghoul gives her some caps and says to go look for some Addictol while he heads over to the bar to get lit. He ends up seeing himself in the mirror for the first time in a while, and it leads to another flashback of Coop before the war. It's the day of that big meeting in Vegas, but before they get on the plane, Coop says that he's got to go check in with his agent. Really, he calls up the other phone booth where Kate is already waiting, and she tells him that there's a jar of poison hidden in the coin dispenser. But Coop is still not 100% down with the whole idea, so he changes his mind and decides to come up with his own plan. They pull up at the Lucky 38 later that night, and Coop says that he's going to go get some drinks, but instead he spots Hank in the crowd and follows him upstairs. He's trying to figure out how to get the cold fusion device when Mr. House himself happens to step out of the elevator. But then this dude just walks straight up to Coop and says that the real Mr. House wants to meet him. So Coop hops on the elevator and takes it all the way to the top floor, and what's crazy is House already knows what Coop is there to do. Back in the wasteland, that freaky-ass salesman dude who helped Thaddeus comes strolling into Vegas looking for a good time, if you catch my drift. Later that night, we see him out on a romantic date with this special Protectron called Fisto, but then out of nowhere, Hank just pulls up and knocks this dude out with a crowbar, and then drags him straight down into the underground lab. The next thing he knows, the dude wakes up strapped to a table with one of those chips on the back of his neck, and Hank starts asking if he wants to have his memories removed. Well, obviously, this dude says yes, because he's done some pretty questionable stuff in the past, to say the least, and Hank starts firing up the device. But just when his head would normally explode, it actually doesn't. So it looks like this time the chip finally works. Meanwhile, on the surface, Norm and the Vault 31 squad eventually get to the old Vault Tech headquarters, but as soon as they get inside, Norm notices a giant bloodstain on the wall, and suddenly these two old ladies just pull up out of nowhere. It's Ma June and Barv from back in Philly, but once they see that it's just a bunch of vault dwellers, they realize that these guys aren't a threat. And as they get to talking, Norm finds out that Ma June knows his sister. Now, Ma June is pretty sure that she's dead, but Norm knows Lucy better than that, and he's not about to just give up so easily. Alright, I hate to break it to these dudes, but Ma June is 100% right. Honestly, I'm surprised they even made it this far without getting wrecked by a bunch of rabid dogs. But if they just got snuck up on by a couple grandmas, they're not going to survive another 10 minutes up here on the surface. So maybe they should just take her advice and get the hell back to the vault before they all get smoked. That would be the smart thing to do, but it seems like Norm's not going back until he finds his sister. So if he's planning on staying out in the wasteland, there's a few things that he can do to help his chances. Like, the first thing I would do is get some new drip, because walking around in that goofy-ass vault suit just lets everyone know that you are an easy lick. Those things stick out worse than Ronald McDonald at a funeral. And the last thing you need is to stand out in a place where you might get noticed and get killed. Especially since everyone knows that vault dwellers are soft as hell, so I would ditch the suit ASAP and trade it for something that actually blends in. I'm also taking off the Pip-Boy and stuffing it in a backpack or something, because walking around with a giant computer on your wrist is pretty much the dumbest thing you can do. But he won't last long without a weapon of some kind, so I would just ask Ma June if they had an extra blicky lying around, and then he'll be in much better shape. Now, as for Lucy and the ghoul, they're gonna need some better weapons, because the stuff they got now ain't gonna cut it. For energy weapons, there used to be this store in Freeside called the Silver Rush that sold them, but these days it looks like the place is abandoned. So I'd sneak in there and see if I found any good loot lying around. But when it comes to explosives, they have to go check in with the Boomers, and I'm not talking about your grandma. Right outside of Vegas, there's an old Air Force base where these dudes called the Boomers used to keep all kinds of explosives. So I might swing over there and see what I can find. But maybe the real answer is not fighting at all, because Hank clearly managed to get around them somehow, so if there's too many Deathclaws to fight, then stealth is always an option. The Strip is a big place with more than one entrance, and even though they're giant killing machines, death claws, they still gotta sleep. So I would just wait until nighttime when they were all in their nests,
daytime?
then quietly
It might be
sneak
easier
through
to go
without getting their
daytime.
attention. And if they really want to make things easy, they can swing down to the old RepCon test site and pick up a couple of stealth boys, and that should make getting in
sure
there a
that seems
piece of
possible
cake.
in this
Speaking
universe,
of
but let's
Lucy,
keep
she
on.
just got to the general store looking to buy some Addict doll. But there's a problem, because they're charging 1,000 caps for it, and Lucy doesn't have that kind of Skrilla, so she comes up with a new plan and decides that she's just gonna steal it instead. Sneaking in through the back door, she waits for the shopkeeper to go upstairs and then goes over and grabs the Addict doll out of the cabinet. But then she notices a power fist just sitting in the open and decides that she might as well just yoink that too. But as she's getting ready to sneak back out again, she notices a freaking body stuffed in a barrel, and while she's distracted, the owner comes back and catches her. Now the weird thing is, this dude's uniform looks way too small, and when she looks up, Lucy notices a picture of the real owner, and it looks nothing like this guy, which can only mean one thing: the guy murked him and took over the shop. The guy realizes that she's onto him and starts reaching for a blammer, but Lucy ups hers first and just one-taps him right on the spot. And when she realizes that she just smoked a regular guy, it genuinely makes her question if the wasteland is finally getting to her. But while Lucy's out here catching bodies, we jump into the rest of that
to be
flashback
fair, it
where
makes sense.
Coop was meeting with Mr. House.
Looks like
So
Walt Disney,
yeah,
I don't know why.
House already knows that Coop came there to pack him up, but instead he wants a chance to talk first. He's 100% sure the world's gonna end one way or another, so he's been trying to predict how it's gonna happen and come up with some way to survive it. That's why he wants the cold fusion, so he can keep himself alive even after the nukes drop. But unlike Kate, who thinks that he's gonna be the one to do it, House thinks that there's someone even more powerful out there. He could see through Coop's power armor while he was back in Alaska, and he saw the death claw that Coop ran into while he was out there, but the thing is, he's got no idea who made it, and that's what's got him so worried. Well, Coop still thinks the guy is crazy, and he runs back to the elevator while House is still back there flipping out. But it seems like the whole conversation really got in his head. Alright, Lucy and Coop both had the wrong reactions here, but let's start with Lucy first, because she's over here acting like she just did something wrong, as if smoking that dude wasn't completely valid, and it just goes to show that she still hasn't learned how things work out here in the wasteland. Maybe in the vault everyone was super friendly and helpful, but up on the surface, everyone's doing whatever it takes to survive, so they're all playing by different rules.
True.
And the way that I see it, after realizing my guy over here straight up killed the owner and took over his shop, it's totally fair to just blast him and take whatever I want. If anything, Lucy should have popped this guy sooner before he even had a chance to reach for the strap. He was about to do the same thing to her if she didn't beat him to it. So, I'm sorry, but you're not gonna catch me feeling bad about taking him out. And since he smoked the owner, and now Lucy smoked him, I feel like everything in that store was up for grabs. So I'm not stopping at just Addict doll. I'm taking stim packs, ammo, weapons, and even taking caps out the freaking register. Anything remotely useful that can fit in my bag is coming with me. But the one thing I'm not taking is that power fist, because, it's
pretty
sweet
obvious,
and all, but Lucy's strength stat is literally a 4. So carrying that thing would over-encumber me, and it would be a waste of inventory. Now, as for Coop, that situation was a lot more complicated. He went in there convinced House wanted to end the world. But if the two of them actually worked together, they might have been able to stop it, because you see, House was never trying to blow everything up. He was running the numbers because he wanted to survive. And there was one thing he pointed out that could have changed everything. He said all the numbers lined up on the exact day that Cooper's daughter was born, and not only that, but the end of the world actually moved forward when Coop flew out to Vegas. So basically everything Coop thought he was doing to protect his family was actually making things even worse. If Coop's original plan made the apocalypse jump forward, then all he would have had to do was start trying different ideas, while House used his computers to predict the outcomes, until they finally landed on a plan that didn't lead to the end of the world. I mean, it is just that simple. Like, boom, apocalypse avoided, and we can all live happily ever after. But whatever Coop did, I guess it's safe to say that it did not work out. Back at the Vault Tech headquarters, Norm realizes that whatever Phase 2 is might not be so great for his peeps back in the vaults. He tries asking this girl Claudia if she knows anything about it, but all she knows is that Barb Howard was in charge of the vaults. So they decide to go check her office and see what they find. While Norm's hacking into her terminal, Claudia calls him out for faking this whole super manager thing, cause he's obviously too nice to be a Vault Tech employee. But she's worried about what the other Vaultites are gonna do when they find out. Oh yeah, and the worst part is, Ronnie's been over here snooping this whole time. So as soon as Claudia is gone, Ronnie just storms in, unplugs the terminal,
Shit.
and starts choking my boy out with the wire. Meanwhile, in Freeside, Lucy takes the attic doll, and after vomiting her guts all over the street, she actually starts feeling a lot better. So she heads over to the Atomic Wrangler and meets back up with the ghoul, but all of a sudden, a creepy salesman dude walks in looking like he just got a job at State Farm. It turns out Hank actually sent this dude up there to get Lucy, but the thing is, he's not asking. Because you see, Hank's got Cooper's wife and daughter down in the lab, and he says that he'll just unplug him if the ghoul acts up. So out of nowhere, the ghoul turns around and hits Lucy with a tranq dart, but just as she's about to fall asleep, Lucy gets up, grabs the power fist, and punches Coop so hard that he goes flying straight out the window and gets impaled on a pole. But that's all she can do before she finally passes out, and while she's lying there unconscious, Hank walks in and picks her up. Well, even getting impaled's not enough to kill the ghoul, but now he's stuck there with no way to reach his medicine. And the more pissed off he gets, he starts getting closer and closer to going feral. As for Lucy, she finds herself down in Hank's underground base with a note saying to call him when she wakes up. But she just says screw that and heads out on her own. Alright, I hate to say it, but my boy Coop just took another fat L on this one because he just gave Hank exactly what he wants. Actually, this is a lot like the situation back in Vault 33, because even though Coop and Overseer Betty don't really have that much in common, they're both over here making the same mistake. When this freaky ass dude pulled up saying Hank would unplug the fam, Coop immediately folded without even trying anything else. But when you think about it for more than 2 seconds, that was the dumbest thing he could have done. Like, first of all, he has absolutely no proof that his family's even still alive, so for all Coop knows, that whole threat was just a bluff. And even if they are alive, he's got no guarantee that Hank would actually let them go. And remember, we're dealing with a guy who nuked a whole town here, so not exactly the most trustworthy guy. Now here's the thing, Coop's mistake was thinking Hank had all the power, when really, as long as he still had Lucy, that made them 50-50. But since he gave Lucy up, now Hank has absolutely no reason to let his family go or anything. He can literally just tell Lucy and the ghoul he's beat. So if it was me here, there's no way I'm letting that salesman just walk away with Lucy. Either I'm coming with them so they can take me to my family, or Lucy is staying with me until Hank brings me the wife and kid. Cause I'm not about to let this dude just play me like a fool. Worst part is, Hank was literally right there, so if Coop had just held out a little bit longer, he could have caught Hank, whooped his ass, and made him take them straight to the fam. But now he's over here about to go feral while Hank's busy catching dubs left and right. So yeah, great job, Coop. Now as for my guy Norm, I know he's not a fighter, but he's not gonna survive if he can't even beat another Vault Dweller 1v1. Ronnie's obviously a lot bigger and stronger, but in the Wasteland, that's pretty much the average fight. And that's why you gotta rely on strategy. So yeah, throwing a bunch of random papers at him wasn't exactly the best move. Like instead, I would get something with a little bit more oomph to it and chuck it straight at the dome. Then try to rush in while he was recovering and knock him off balance, and then at least he could have dipped out before this dude pieced him up. After leaving her room, Lucy spots these two Legion dudes coming down the hallway, but just as she's about to clobber one with a fire extinguisher, they both turn around and start acting all friendly. Confused, she heads off in the direction that they came from and ends up in this big room where there's dozens of Wastelanders in matching uniforms, all just peacefully making more of these chips. It's completely bizarre, but she keeps going until she hears some music coming from one of the simulation rooms. And that's where she finds her old man in the middle of putting out dinner. Instead of acting surprised, he jumps right into asking Lucy about a book they were reading as if nothing ever happened, and it's all quiet on the Western Front, a war book, and he says that the part that bothered him the most was how everyone was fighting over nothing, kinda like what's happening in the Wasteland right now. He's clearly got some kind of point to prove here, but as soon as he turns his back, Lucy puts a pair of scissors up to his neck and says that she's bringing him back to the vault. Well, to her surprise, Hank just grabs a pair of handcuffs and puts them on himself, and he says that he's not gonna fight her, but first he wants a chance to show her what he's been working on. Back in Freeside, the ghoul is still over here all shish-kebabbed up and slowly going feral the whole time, until later that night some kind of giant creature comes walking over and rips the pole in half. But it's not a death claw, and whatever it is ends up dragging Coop away to this old church somewhere on the edge of town. When he finally wakes up, Coop finds himself in the church, strapped to some kind of big contraption. He's still got a giant hole in his stomach, but the creature sticks a big chunk of uranium in there to help him heal up. The monster seems to think him and Coop are on the same team, and he says he wants Coop's help to get revenge on the people who really caused this, the Enclave. As he steps into the light, we see that he's actually talking to a damn super mutant, but Coop insists that he only works alone. And the big guy is like, that's fine, but then we can't let you see our crib so he knocks Coop out again and takes him away. Alright, I guess the wasteland just keeps getting weirder, but I can tell you one thing, I would rather be dealing with this super mutant than stuck down there with Hank. Because even though one of them's a giant green freak that eats people, we all know Hank's the real monster. Like seriously, this dude's over here trying to act like Mr. Rogers when he's literally the biggest demon this wasteland has ever seen. But sorry bud, I'm not buying it. You can't just nuke a whole town of innocent people, including Lucy's mom by the way, and then turn around and say, I've changed. Like nah, it doesn't work like that. But this dude is smart because he knows he's done some pretty unforgivable stuff, so he's basically trying to trick Lucy by making everything seem normal. Now, it might look like she caught him by surprise here, but Lucy didn't just find him putting out a home-cooked meal by accident. He knows Lucy has seen a lot of traumatizing stuff up there on the surface. So he's trying to catch her off guard with the whole friendly dad act, you know, like make her feel like she's back in Vault 33 again. That way she gives him a chance, but that would be a huge mistake. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't just smoke anyone who gets in your way and then turn around and go, we need to stop the violence. I mean, bro, you're the violence.
Yeah, so you're the violent one here.
I'm not taking responsibility thing, that's not gonna work for me. And that's why if I was Lucy here, I'm not taking any chances, man. I'm sticking this dude in some handcuffs, putting some tape on his mouth so he shuts the up, and then taking his ass straight back to the vault so he can face the consequences of his actions. But as for Coop, he should probably team up with Frankenstein over here if he wants to make any progress at all. Like, first of all, if you wake up strapped to the ceiling in some dude's giant crib, it's probably not a good idea to start talking back. I mean, Coop was not in any position to be making demands here. So personally, I'm shutting the hell up, going along with whatever Shrek tells me to do. Now, Coop's lucky the mutant just let him go, but if he was offering to help, then why not just give him a chance and see what happens? Like, Coop was literally about to go feral until this guy came along. So doing things solo is obviously not working out for him. But even if this dude knows about the Enclave, then there's a chance that he could help Coop find his family. So instead of just dissing him after he literally saved his life, I'd give this mutant a chance to show me what he's talking about. In worst case scenario, Coop could always just steal some supplies and dip out anytime that he wants. Lucy's bringing...
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, yeah, I'd probably be like, hey, I'm going after Hank. You want to help me? After the Enclave or something. I don't know. I can definitely see that happening, but what do you think? Let me know. Anyway.
Hank back through the base when they get to the room with all his new brainwashed workers. But instead of trying to stop her, they all just smile and say hello. Hank starts pointing out all these people who used to be absolute psychos while they were out in the wasteland, but now, thanks to his chip, they're all peacefully getting along. Lucy makes him promise to leave the doors open so that they can all get out of there, but when she tells them all that they're free to leave, they all start saying that they'd rather stay instead. Just then, the salesman shows up with that old dude from the NCR and this random guy from the Legion. They didn't get the chip yet, so Hank asks Lucy what they should do, and she tells him to just leave these guys alone. But the second they take off his handcuffs, the Legion guy starts flipping out and trying to smoke the old man. Lucy tries pushing him away as the Legion guy starts coming after them, but he knocks her down and grabs a stapler and just starts slamming it straight in the old dude's head. So with no other choice, Lucy hits the button. And all of a sudden, they both stop dead in their tracks and start acting like best buddies. Meanwhile, we jump over to another flashback of Coop before the war. After getting in a huge fight with his wife, he decides to go back to the Lucky 38 and finds Hank there posted at the bar. So after getting the dude trashed out of his mind, Coop brings him back to the hotel room and puts a little something something in his drink. And once he's knocked out, Coop opens the briefcase looking for the cold fusion device, but he's confused to find this weird injector thing instead. That's when Barb randomly walks in the room. And without saying a word, she just grabs the injector and pulls the cold fusion device straight out of Hank's neck. Back in the present, Maximus and Thaddeus are just chilling at camp when Dogmeat comes walking up carrying the ghoul's hat. Realizing he must be in trouble, they follow Dogmeat over to this old school somewhere nearby, and sure enough, they end up finding Coop just lying there on the ground. But before we get back to those guys, first we jump to another flashback, except this time it's the overseer Steph back when she was a young girl. It's sometime back before the bombs fell, and it looks like Steph and her mom just escaped from an American prison camp. So they're booking it through the woods as someone's blasting at them with a rifle, only to end up running straight into a soldier in power armor. He tells them to turn around and go back, but then out of nowhere, some dude just comes running up and blows him up. Steph's mom got hurt in the blast, so her only choice was to keep going without her. But before she left, her mom said to do whatever it takes to survive. And Steph here genuinely took those words to heart. Steph makes her way across the border, smoking anyone she had to on the way down. And that pretty much explains why she's been acting like such a psycho this this entire time. Back at Hank's secret project, Lucy is still not convinced that he's doing the right thing, but Hank over here is like, as long as it works, what's the problem? He explains that the chip makes them forget all the terrible things they've done, while replacing all their thoughts with happy stuff instead. But after thinking it over for just a second, Lucy still wants to shut the place down. Well, to do that, they have to go down to the mainframe, but when they finally get there, she sees that the same Legion guy from yesterday is just casually mopping the floor. Well, as much as she doesn't like it, she can't lie and say that the chip doesn't work, and Hank says they can stop the Legion for good if they just work together. All right.
Don't know about that.
Sorry, Hank, but that sounds like a load of baloney. And if Lucy still falls
Not
for
wrong.
it, she's actually dumber
Where's
than
peace?
I thought.
Think
Now, at
peace.
first,
That's
it might
just
seem
tyranny.
like he's got a point here, right? I mean, since these people were all total psychos before, this probably seems like a big improvement. But this is why they always say two wrongs do not make a right. I mean, for starters, he had to kidnap these people and blue screen their damn brains just to get this process started. And I can guarantee nobody was down for that when it happened. Well, besides that freaky ass salesman dude, but we don't gotta talk about him. So that's strike one. But then Hank wants to act like he proved his point just because they wouldn't leave if the doors were open, but my guy, that's the chip talking, not them. So I hate to break it to you, but that does not count. Turn off those chips and then ask the same question. I dare you. But you won't, because you know that
Coward.
they'd instantly flip and burn this place to the ground, so congratulations on being a fraud. But you might be thinking, well, at least it's better than the Legion, and that may be true, but that's a pretty low bar to say the least. And I mean, even if it's a good thing, Hank is the absolute last person who should ever be trusted with this kind of technology. So if I'm Lucy here, I'm not wasting any time. I'm opening that door, smashing the mainframe, and letting nature take its course. Because I'm not about to let the guy who blew up Shady Sands tell me how to make the world a better place. So, while Lucy is thinking it over, we jump to another flashback where Coop is having a meeting with this congresswoman, Diane Welsh. She's the least corrupt person he could possibly think of, so he wants to know what she would do if he ever gave her the cold fusion device. And without even thinking about it, she says that she would give it away so that everyone could use it. It sounds like she's being honest, but Coop is still not sure, so Diane says that she'll get him a meeting with the president himself. And after thinking it over, Coop finally agrees because it seems like this is his only chance to save the world. Back in the wasteland, Coop leads the boys over to an old NCR armory where they find an absolute crap ton of weapons and supplies.
Nice.
Maximus starts asking the ghoul why he wants to help them, but Coop turns around and says it's not help, it's a trade. Cause he'll only let them take the weapons if Maximus hands over the cold fusion device. But it's not just blickies that they came here to find, and walking over to the back, the ghoul reveals this badass set of NCR power armor.
Nice.
So Maximus thinks it over, and because it's his only way to find Lucy, he decides to take the deal. Meanwhile, back in Vault 32, a couple of the other dwellers notice that they haven't seen that dude Woody in a while. Steph randomly announced that her and Chet are getting married tomorrow, but when Chet tries asking her why, Steph just snaps and tells him to shut up. He's doing some dishes when he notices something stuck in the drain, and reaching down, he realizes that it's Woody's glasses. So he turns around and asks Steph where he's been, but Steph just says that he got sent to Vault 31, and instead of confronting her, Chet chickens out and gets rid of the glasses. But over in Vault 33, the water situation is getting so bad that they can't even flush the toilet anymore. And realizing that she's got no other choice, Betty opens up the safe and takes out Hank's mysterious box. She leaves it in the doorway between the two vaults, but as Steph comes to take it, Betty walks out and starts demanding the water like she promised. Well, Steph's not too happy about it, but she agrees to keep her word, but Betty's got a feeling that whatever's in that box might be an even bigger problem. Back in Freeside, Maximus and the ghoul come strolling through town ready to fight these death claws. And when everyone sees Max's new power armor, a huge crowd gathers around and starts cheering them on. But just as they're about to go in, Thaddeus's arm just freaking falls off out of nowhere, so he ends up having to hang back while Maximus and the ghoul head through the gate. But while they're busy on the surface, Lucy finally gives in and puts on this fancy yellow dress instead of her old vault suit, then goes back to the simulation room for some dinner with her dad. It seems like old times until that NCR dude shows up to pour them a glass of water, and when Lucy asks if he remembers anything about his old life, it's kinda obvious that this guy has no idea what she's talking about. Well, that's when Lucy gets up and starts taking off her dad's cuffs, but just when it seems like she's about to let him go, she grabs his Pip-Boy and cuffs him to the oven, and then runs off to destroy the mainframe before he can stop her. Back in Vault 32, it's finally Steph and Chet's big day, but when it comes time to say their I do's, Chet just goes off script and says I don't. Everyone is all confused, wondering what is going on, but Chet starts exposing Steph right in front of them, telling everyone how he found Woody's glasses in their sink. But that's not even the worst part, because that's when Chet pulls out her Canadian ID and Steph just takes off and locks herself in her office as they all start chasing her down. As for Max and the ghoul, it doesn't take long before they find a Deathclaw eating another one's body. So on the bright side, at least there's one less thing to worry about, but they're still gonna be in for one hell of a fight here.
At least they got the power armor this time.
At least Vaulties are finally doing something about Psycho Steph. And even Lucy finally decided to turn her brain on, so it looks like we're actually getting somewhere. But I'm not gonna lie, this plan Maximus and the ghoul just came out with, absolutely trash. I mean, the power armor was a good start, but that stuff doesn't make you invincible, you know? So why the hell is Maximus just walking in line like he's about to square up, when there were literally a crap ton of weapons sitting right there? Like, just because the suit had some sick blades on it doesn't mean he still can't use a gun. That place has got MGs, dynamite, grenade launchers. I even think I saw a fat man in there, you know,
really?
Like the weapon, not like a guy. Anyway, Fallout fans, you're telling me they only took a Gauss rifle and a sniper and just said, yep, that'll do? Not very smart. So personally, I would have loaded up on some explosives, grabbed a couple more snipers, and gave Max the grenade launcher or something. Like, damn! But here's where the plan gets good, because why are they just going straight in there when they could have taken a couple out from the rooftops first? Also, Thaddeus is still sitting on a fat stack of caps from back at the factory, and since Maximus saved his life, I feel like he's earned at least half of that, so I would take the caps and pay a couple locals to cover me from outside the fence. They've got every reason to want to help me because they all want to get the strip back, and if you throw in some caps and put them in a spot where they'll be safe, it should be easy to round up a whole squad. Then we take out as many Deathclaws as we can before going in, blow the rest of them up with explosives, and boom, the strip is saved, everyone's a hero, and Coop gets to the Lucky 38. Easy. The ghoul tells Max to basically just be his human shield as they fight their way to the Lucky 38. So as the Deathclaw turns to face them, he just squares up like come get some, and they start brawling while the ghoul just dips to the casino. Max is winning the fight until he ends up getting stuck in a car door, so the ghoul turns around and starts blasting the Deathclaw with his Gauss rifle. But just when it looks like he's cooked, Maximus pulls up and chops its head off with one strike. The ghoul thanks him for the save, but turning around they see two more Deathclaws about to run up, and while Maximus goes over to fight them, the ghoul just walks in the casino and leaves him hanging. Max takes off a few of the Deathclaw's fingers, but then spins around and tail whips him straight through the gate. And Maximus realizes that they're in trouble as it gets ready to start attacking Freeside. Meanwhile, the ghoul heads up to the house's old office on the top floor, while Lucy heads straight to the mainframe and opens the door. This place is an absolute mess, but he finds this red button that opens the secret room for the house's cold fusion machine. In a flashback, we see Coop hand the device straight to the president, but little did he know that he just made a huge mistake. And when Lucy opens the door to the mainframe, she realizes that it's all being powered by the head of that nice congresswoman, Diane. So yeah, it looks like Coop's plan to save the world didn't exactly work out, but he takes the cold fusion device and puts it in the machine, and when he turns around, there's his old buddy Mr. House on the monitor, looking just like they did last time they met. Now, I bet you forgot about the Legion, right? Well, it looks like Caesar just got packed up, and in the middle of the battle, the legate grabs the old Caesar's body and drags him into a tent. But when he reads the note that's supposed to tell him who the new Caesar is, all it says is the Legion ends with me. So the legate just turns around and kills the only one witness, and then eats the freaking note and takes the crown for himself. And now that he's in charge, he decides that it's time to storm New Vegas. Back at the Lucky 38, Coop decides that it's time for House to show him where his family is. But House makes him put on a Pip-Boy to show him the way. Meanwhile, down in Freeside, everyone starts running for their lives now that the Deathclaws just broke through the gate, but as Max is getting ready to square up, he realizes that his power armor has frickin' rocket launchers. So boom! He starts one-shotting Deathclaws like it's nothing. But even though he takes two of them down, there's at least like 6 or 7 more of them on the way. Back with Lucy, she goes walking up to that lady Diane's head only to realize that she is still alive. At least, sort of, anyway, but she sure doesn't want to be, and she starts begging Lucy to just smoke her and put an end to it. Well, Lucy's all hesitant about it because, you know, she's a good person or whatever, but Diane just keeps insisting until Lucy finally snaps and does it just because she's so annoying. Then we jump back over to Norm as the other Vaultites are about to give him some of that wasteland justice. But when Claudia tries to step in, Ronnie ends up shoving her straight into the elevator button. And all of a sudden, a swarm of rad roaches comes out and starts eating them alive. So everyone takes off running as the roaches keep slaughtering them one after another, and Ronnie starts trying to leave Norm for dead while everyone else takes cover in the office. But the roaches force their way inside before Ronnie can close the door, and they end up smoking everyone while Norm just hides under a coffee table.
Alrighty then.
Now, you see, Ronnie, that's why you don't go messing with my boy. Well, I knew it was gonna be something lame like a rad roach that took these goobers out, but man, that was just embarrassing. I mean, rad roaches are literally level 1 enemies. They got like 5 HP, so you're supposed to be able to take them out in one hit. And that's why all Norm had to do was pick up a freaking garbage bin and absolutely smoke one of them. So nah, the fact that they just got bodied here is crazy. And the funny thing is, if Ronnie wasn't busy trying to scum Norm over, then they probably would have been good. Even once the roaches got in, my guy, just pick up a random object and fight back, okay? This couldn't be me, because as soon as those roaches popped out, I'm using the other Vaulties as meat shields and dipping the out of there. But if that doesn't work, then I'll just pick up a lamp, a broom, a fire extinguisher, you know, anything, and start taking them out. I'm not saying I could fight the whole swarm here, but I feel like I'm good for at least 2, maybe 3 rad roaches before they pack me up. And if all these other Vaulties worked together, they probably could have survived the battle with only a couple losses. But I guess it just goes to show why they should have stayed home in the first place.
Pretty much.
As Coop's making his way through the tunnels, we see another flashback to right after him and Barb gave the cold fusion device to the president. They're talking about moving to Colorado when they see Hank come jogging up all excited, and who's with him but none other than crazy old Steph Harper. Yeah, she was the maid at the Lucky 38 who took Hank after Coop knocked him out. And apparently it was love at first sight when the dude woke up, so they're already planning a wedding and looking to get her a job at Vault Tech. Well, anyway, it seems like they actually might have just saved the world, but as they walk past a bunch of payphones, they all start ringing at the same time. And Coop knows deep down that the call must be for him. Back at the underground facility, Hank shows up to confront Lucy after she shut down the mainframe, but he doesn't seem that bothered about her messing with his plan. That's when he pulls out this super tiny version of the chip that works the same way, but it's so small that you won't even know who has it. And he's about to put one in Lucy to brainwash her to going along with it. Horrified, Lucy tries to fight back, but the huge Legion dude just grabs her as Hank gets ready to do it. And this time it looks like she's not getting away. Meanwhile, up on the surface, Maximus is still fighting the Death Claws when someone else suddenly blasts one straight in the eye. It's Thaddeus coming in clutch from up on the roof, but while he's reloading, the Death Claw grabs Maximus and starts ripping him up. Just when Lucy's about to get chipped up herself, the ghoul shows up at the last second and frickin' throwing knives the Legion guy in the dome, then pops Hank straight in the butt cheek, then just kicks Lucy this little revolver and lets her decide what to do as he leaves to go find his family. But while Lucy is thinking it over, she notices the chip and gets an idea. By now, Maximus's power armor is so damaged that he can't even move. So he climbs out and grabs some crappy weapons as the rest of the Death Claws start closing in, but just when it looks like he's done for, somebody fires a shot that drops a Death Claw in one hit. And when he looks over, he sees a damn NCR Ranger with an anti-material rifle posted right across the street. That's when a whole army of NCR troops comes marching around the corner, led by that old lady from back at the camp. So it looks like she had some reinforcements after all, and she tells Maximus to go hide while they take care of the rest. Lucy leads Hank outside after giving him the chip instead, and she's gonna use it to make him nice, just like he did to the others. But first, she wants to know why he did it. Well, Hank turns around and says the surface was the real experiment, and he already sent tons of chipped up wastelanders out with secret orders from the Enclave. But while Lucy is distracted, he just pulls out the little control box and completely wipes his own memory. Heartbroken, Lucy pulls him in for a hug, but nah, dude's brain is totally fried. But as she gets up and starts walking away, she hears Maximus call her name, and they're both relieved just to see each other alive. But then we've got the situation back at Vault 32, and while the Vault dwellers are out there banging on the door, Steph opens Hank's secret box and finds a black Enclave Pip-Boy inside. And putting it on, she calls up the Enclave and tells them to start phase 2. Back with Norm, he waits until the coast looks clear before going back to check on the others, and surprisingly enough, that girl Claudia is still alive. So he puts her on a cart and starts bringing her back to the vaults. Coop finally walks up to the cryopods meant for his wife and his daughter, but as he gets there, we see the rest of that flashback from before. Turns out that House was the one who called to warn Cooper that he just screwed up. And the minute he hangs up the phone, a bunch of guys in suits pull up and arrest him for anti-American activities. Well, now it's finally time to get some answers, and Coop tells House to open the pods, only when he finally opens them, there's nobody inside. But inside Barb's pod, he finds a postcard saying they went to Colorado after all, and that does give him hope that his family might still be out there. So Coop dumps the Pip-Boy and gets back out there to find them. The only bad news is the Legion is about to pull up on the strip, and from way up in the Lucky 38, Lucy sees them coming and wonders if she could have stopped it, but Maximus tells her now that that's just how the wasteland goes. But while they're about to deal with the Legion, the Brotherhood chapters are still wiping each other out, and after catching up with Elder Quintus, we see that he's just grabbed the blueprints for Liberty Prime. So in the end, I guess the wasteland never really changes, but we'll have to wait for season 3 to see what happens next. Yeah, dude.
Well, at least our friend the ghoul, Cooper, managed to find a clue to his family's location. Here's hoping he finds them. But I'm not sure how they're going to take him being a ghoul. Oh boy. Honestly, I feel bad for him, you know? Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.